Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Rakshamam Krishna 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 Pahimam Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshamam Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Pahimam. So here we are, chapter 34, Krishna book, and the title of the chapter is Vidyadhar liberated and the demon Shankachuda killed. Okay, and the paragraph we're starting from is the cowherd men headed by Nanda Maharaj spent that night on the bank of the Saraswati. I think that's where we're at.
I've got the pilgrims take a bath, worship the deity, and give charity.
Oh, it's just one up above here. Okay, one above that.
Yeah.
All right, let's start from there. No problem. Hare Krishna, Madhuri Mataji. Excuse me, Mataji is here as well. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Hope you
So
both had a wonderful Janmashtami.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, where are we now? In chapter 34?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Chapter 34. The pilgrims take a bath. That's the paragraph we're starting from. It's just maybe 4 or 5 paragraphs in.
Get to the right place. Sorry, I can't hear.
Yeah, we'll just wait a moment. Have you found your place, Smita Mataji? Yeah, okay. So what we'll do, as we do every week, we'll be reading paragraph by paragraph and just discussing as a group. So it's a great opportunity to ask questions or make comments from what you've heard, or if you have any thoughts on what's being instructed here from Prabhupada's teachings, anything you can bring in from Prabhupada's teachings. And this is and kind of enrich the reading in that way. Okay. You found that now, Madhuri Mataji?
Yeah, sorry. Can you repeat again where we are starting again? Sorry.
Yeah, it's chapter 34.
Yeah.
And the paragraph, it starts with the sentence, the pilgrims take a bath, worship the deity, and give charity. Yeah. It's 1, 2, 3. It's the 4th paragraph.
Three, 4.
The pilgrims take a bath. That one.
One of the copies.
Chapter 34, yeah?
Yeah.
Vidyadhar liberated, that one. That's the chapter. Alex, have you found where we are?
No, sorry. Anyway, carry on.
Yes. The pilgrims take a bath, worship the deity, and give charity.
Yeah, great.
Anyway, carry on. I'll find it.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
You're in chapter 34, yeah?
Yeah, chapter 34.
Yeah, because 4th paragraph, it says, another gopi said, my dear friends. That's the 4th paragraph.
Maybe you're not in chapter 34.
That's not the 4th one.
maybe a different chapter.
Okay.
If you go ahead a little bit, I think you missed a previous week.
Yeah, but that's why we missed it.
Yeah. Which book have you got? What's the cover look like in your book?
Book is
Anyone else have that one?
Tell the page number.
Page number? Anyone else reading from that book? No? Okay.
I'll go on my iPad. I found it anyway. This
Yeah.
one. Yeah, the pilgrims takes a bath.
All right, great. So in terms of reading, if you want to, anyone who's able to read can put a number in the chat box for the reading order. So Jay Prakash is reading first. So start with you, Prabhu.
Pilgrims take a bath, worship the deity, and give charity. They are also recommended to fast one day. They should go to a place of pilgrimage and stay there for at least 3 days. The first day is spent fasting, and at night they can drink a little water because water does not break the fast.
Thanks, Prabhu. So just to introduce this chapter again, basically the Rajbasis headed by Nanda Maharaj have been taken to Ambikavan, which is a place of pilgrimage related to Lord Shiva and Parvati Devi, and they're following the ritual of visiting holy places in this way. So you know, taking holy bath, worshipping the deity, giving charity. Okay, and then this is just the beginning of the pastime. So we're about to find out now the key part of the pastime. So we'll continue reading.
The cowherd men, headed by Nand Maharaj, spent that night on the bank of Saraswati. They fasted all day and drank a little water at night. But while they were taking rest, a great serpent from the nearby forest appeared before them and hungrily began to swallow up Nand Maharaj. Nand cried out helplessly, "My dear son, Krishna, please come and save me from this danger. This serpent is swallowing me." When Nand Maharaj cried for help, all the cowherd men got up and saw what was happening. They immediately took up burning logs and began to beat the snake to kill it. But in spite of being beaten with burning logs, the serpent was not about to give up swallowing Nand Maharaj.
Okay, so this paragraph gives an idea of exactly where Nanda Maharaj went. So Ambikavan is at the bank of the river Saraswati. So for those who know about India and geography, the Saraswati is no longer a visible river. It's actually an underground river now, isn't it? So if anyone tells you they went to the Saraswati recently for a bath, you might be dubious about if they're telling the truth. So it goes kind of north. It's kind of north rather than like the river Yamuna, which goes through more central Uttar Pradesh. The Saraswati, it starts from the north, like in Punjab, and it goes across Punjab through like down towards the edge of Rajasthan. Just seeing a map. So you can see how far they actually went. They went basically across Rajasthan to reach Punjab via the Saraswati River for this pilgrimage, yeah? And they're going there for at least 3 nights. And so what happens now at the river Saraswati, which we just read? What happens to Nanda Maharaj?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I can't, well, he's being swallowed, but a serpent's, I'm sorry for being stupid, but a serpent's mouth is quite small, isn't it? Or is it quite big so that he can actually swallow?
So this must be quite a large serpent, huh? Pretty big snake. Yeah, so he's being attacked by this snake, basically, which has come up from the Saraswati River. Yeah. And, sorry, from a nearby forest, and has come to attack him. Okay. And so what happens next?
Well, the coward men, they're trying to beat the snake, or they're trying to kill the snake so that they would let go.
Yeah. So it must be a pretty big snake because there's many men feeding this snake with some background sound coming through. Can anyone else hear that? Okay, it's gone now.
Don't know what.
Yeah, they've got burning logs which they're trying to beat the snake. So it must be a pretty large snake, huh? So it's interesting here because I also noticed just before that, immediately Nanda Maharaj cries out to Krishna.
One was,
That's his immediate response to take shelter of Krishna, his son. He says, "My dear son, Krishna." Yeah, he calls Krishna. So last week, which was a couple of weeks ago since we had our last meeting, we were discussing about if the pure devotees actually take shelter of Krishna in the same way as us. So it's apparent here that they do, because even though they see Krishna as their friend or their lover or their child, they still take shelter of Krishna. So he's calling his son Krishna, Nanda Maharaj, and even though Krishna is just this small boy, still he's taking shelter of Krishna. So he knows that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, but he forgets that because his kind of prominent relationship with Krishna is that Krishna is my son. Yeah. So in the back of his mind, he sort of thinks that, Krishna is really powerful, he'll always protect me. Okay. Should we move forward? Unless there's any comments or questions. Okay.
At that time, Krishna appeared on the scene and touched the serpent with his lotus feet. Immediately upon being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna, the serpent shed its reptile body and appeared as a very beautiful demigod named Vidyadhara. His bodily features were so beautiful that he appeared to be worshipable. There was a luster and effulgence emanating from his body, and he was garlanded with gold necklace. He offered obeisances to Lord Krishna and stood before him with great humility. Krishna then asked the demigod, "You appear to be a very nice demigod and to be favored by the goddess of fortune. How is it that you perform such abominable activities that you got the body of a serpent?" The demigod then began to narrate the story of his previous life.
Okay, so now Krishna has come onto the scene. And what does Krishna have to do in order to save his father?
Touch the serpent with his lotus feet.
Yeah, that's right. Any thoughts on this? Krishna, he saves his father by the touch of his lotus feet. As devotees, we're always asked to meditate on what specific part of Krishna's body. Krishna's face, Krishna's arms, his hands,
His feet,
his lotus feet. Yeah,
his lotus feet.
yeah. Krishna's beautiful lotus feet. So Krishna here has saved this demon. He's liberated him, this snake, but just by the touch of his lotus feet. Yeah. Actually, this is the second time, isn't it? Krishna's liberated a snake. Does anyone remember the previous one?
Is it the Kaliya serpent?
That's right, yeah. So Krishna does a similar thing with Kaliya, but slightly different. What does Krishna do with Kaliya?
Well, they don't turn into somebody else. They're still snakes, but he gives them the mercy of being alive and doesn't kill them, and gives them a place to stay.
Yeah, that's right. He restores Kalya's life. So Krishna almost kills him. He removes all his poison, basically. And then he's like a non-poisonous snake, a non-envious, non-poisonous snake. And then he leaves the river Yamuna. So Krishna dances on his hoods with his lotus feet in that pastime, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So here, in this particular pastime, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of our acharyas, he teaches us that Vidyadhara, just like all the demons in the Vrindavan Leelas, they all represent certain what we call anarthas or unwanted qualities in the heart. And Vidyadhar, he represents, I'll just read it as it is written here. Vidyadhar the snake, how Krishna saves the truth of devotional service from being swallowed by the Mayavadis and other atheists. So it illustrates how devotees must avoid the company of such snake-like people. Yeah. So Vidyadhar, he represents someone who covers bhakti by Mayavad. Yeah. And what is Mayavad? Does anyone know? What does Mayavad mean?
Somebody who doesn't believe in Krishna, or they think they're God themselves.
Yeah, that's right. Anything else you want to add? Sorry.
Yeah, someone who thinks Krishna has got no form.
Yeah, that's right. That's another form of Mayavad.
Yeah, Krishna is a formless.
So someone who believes that the Supreme is formless, and therefore they believe that when Krishna does come in a form, then he's just like any other ordinary person or any other powerful person who comes to this world. And they also believe, therefore, that they can also become as powerful as Krishna or become the Supreme, impersonal, just like their understanding of Krishna is. So these are all the incorrect philosophies of Mayavad. So this can cover our devotional service. Yeah. And just by hearing this pastime, we become free from this misunderstanding. By actually meditating on this pastime, we become free from the misunderstandings of Mayavad, which when we come to Krishna consciousness, we don't have a pure understanding of who is Krishna and what his pastimes are, who his associates are, what his good qualities are. Yeah. About his holy names. We don't have a good understanding of those things because we have this Mayavad ideas when we come first to Krishna consciousness. We have these impersonal ideas first. And so by reading pastimes of Krishna, by learning the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita as it is, then we become free from the Mayavad conceptions. So this is the benefit of reading this specific pastime, the Shuddha Phala, the benefit of reading this pastime. Okay, any comments here or questions? Okay, then we'll continue. Does anyone else like to read? Alex, would you like to read?
Yeah, sure. From my dear Lord, right?
Yes.
Okay. My dear Lord, he said, in my previous life I was named Vidyadhara and was known all over the world for my beauty. Because I was celebrating his personality, I used to travel all over in my airplane. While traveling, I saw a great sage named Angira. He was very ugly, and because I was very proud of my beauty, I laughed at him. Due to this sinful act, I was condemned by the great sage to assume the form of a serpent.
Okay.
One should, okay.
Actually, yeah, if you want to read the next paragraph as well.
Okay, I'll give it back. One should note here that before being favored by Krishna, a person is always under the modes of material nature. However elevated he may be materially, Vidyadhara was a materially elevated demigod, and he was very beautiful. He also held a great material position and was able to travel all over by airplane. Yet he was condemned to become a serpent in his next life. Any materially elevated person can be condemned to be abominable species of life if he is not careful. It is a misconception that after reaching the human body, one is never degraded. Vidyadhara himself stated that even though he was a demigod, he was condemned to become a serpent. But because he was touched by the lotus feet of Krishna, he immediately came to Krishna consciousness. He admitted, however, that in his previous life, he was actually sinful. A Krishna conscious person knows that he is always the servant of Krishna. He is most insignificant, and whatever good he does is by the grace of Krishna and the spiritual master.
Thank you. Thanks for reading. Right, so it's revealed now who this personality is, who's kind of magically appeared in front of the Brajavasis from what looked like a snake's body. Yeah. Okay, so who is Vidyadhar? He reveals himself now. Just asking a question open to the group.
Well, he seems to be in a past lifetime someone who feels significant, a demigod, someone who is kind of attached to his beauty or to his form, and this form is transformed in this lifetime as a curse by a sage, but more of a blessing, right? It's a blessing for him to be in the situation where he can be touched by the lotus feet of Krishna. I mean, it's both a fearful situation, but also a blessed situation.
Yeah, nicely explained. Thank you. That's right. So Vidyadhara is a deva, demigod from the higher planets. This is really instructive in terms of like the broader understanding of Vedic culture as compared to other, religious schools or religious beliefs. You can say like the demigods in the Christian tradition are like like angels. They're supposed to be messengers of God. My spiritual master, he often refers to one book called the I think it's called the Aquarian Gospel. He'd found a copy of it. I think it was in Australia, Aquarian Gospel, and in there it details all of the different devas as and it's a gospel, so it's actually a Christian book, a gospel of the Christian teachings, and it details all of the devas as being angels in the Christian theology. So very interesting. Of course, they don't publicize that, in Christianity, they don't publicize it, but it's there as well, even in the Christian thought. So this is very common in the Vedic school, in Vedic teachings, that there are demigods. They're not exactly gods, but they're powerful people. They basically they're just born in a higher status of life. But even then, Prabhupada starts this paragraph by saying, if someone's not favored by Krishna, then basically they're under the modes of nature. So they're still under the influence under different influences of material thought. Yeah, not necessarily fully spiritual, these angels. So they have material desires, they have material lifestyle, but it's just a higher level of material happiness. So it's not necessarily like the goal of what we want to be, the demigods. But as Alex, as Prabhuji said, it was a blessing in disguise, because he went from being in this high material planet to actually getting the blessings of Krishna, which is even better, even higher. Yeah, because he was cursed. So even he made a mistake. He was proud of his beauty, wasn't he? And what happened because of that pride? It's an open question. What happened to Vidyadhar because he was proud? He was taught a lesson by someone.
So by he was by Angira.
Angira, yeah, Angira
Yeah.
Rishi.
Made him into a serpent, because serpents aren't very beautiful. They're quite ugly creatures.
Right.
So it was probably that's why he chose a serpent, because of that reason.
Yeah, perhaps that's why, yeah. So he was actually known. He was known for his beauty. So he must have been like exceptionally beautiful, exceptionally handsome man. In this world and on earth, it's like you have celebrities who are very beautiful or very handsome. So even in the kingdom of the Devas, there are people like that, Another thing that's being told here is that he could fly around by airplane, right? So airplanes are not necessarily a modern invention. Yeah, they've existed from time before, and also exist in the higher planets, not in the same format, jet fuel planes like we have now. Yeah, jumbo jets and that kind of thing. But they run on mantra, by power of mantra. These airplanes, they're called Viman. The different kind of spacecrafts that you can go from planet to planet. Yeah. So being this like very beautiful and proud person, he was flying around on his airplane, and he came across Angira Rishi. Does anyone know who Angira Rishi is, or Angira Muni? Has anyone heard of him before? No? Would you like to know? You would? Angira Muni is, or Maharishi Angira, he's actually one of the sons of Lord Brahma. So he's one of the first created beings by Brahma. Yeah, so he's a very significant personality. He's not someone who's like born on the heavenly planets. He's born directly from the body of Brahma. Yeah, so very, very powerful rishi. He's the author of, I think, he's the author of the Atharva Veda. We have the 4 Vedas. Yeah, Rig, Sama, Yajur. Atharva is the 4th one. So he's the author of the Atharva Veda. And so, of course, he's a very powerful personality. And so he wanted to teach a lesson. He's cursed this, this angel celebrity, Vidyadhar, to become a snake. Yeah. But that in turn had a blessing in disguise, because then he admitted his mistake, before Krishna. And Krishna blessed him with Krishna consciousness, and he offers praise to Krishna, which is what we're going to read next. Okay. So Alex, if you'd like to continue.
Yeah. Second.
So reading from the demigod Vidyadhar, continue to speak.
Yes, okay. The demigod Vidyadhar continued to speak to Shri Krishna. Because I was very proud of the exquisite beauty of my body, he said, I derided the ugly features of the great sage Angira. He cursed me for my sin, and I became a snake. Now I consider that the curse by the sage was not at all a curse. It was a great benediction for me. Had he not cursed me, I would not have assumed the body of a serpent, would not have been kicked by your lotus feet, and thus freed from all material contamination. In material existence, 4 things are very valuable: to be born in a decent family, to be very rich, to be very learned, and to be very beautiful. These are considered to be material assets. Unfortunately, without Krishna consciousness, these material assets sometimes become sources of sin and degradation. Despite Vidyadhara's being a demigod and having a beautiful body, he was condemned to the body of a snake due to pride. Therefore, from this incident, we can learn that those who are too proud of their material assets or who are inimical towards others are degraded to the bodies of snakes. A snake is considered to be the most cruel and envious living entity. But those who are human beings and are envious of others are considered to be even more vicious than snakes.
Yeah.
The snake can be charmed or controlled by mantras and herbs, but a person who is envious cannot be controlled by anyone.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, what can you say? You can talk about that for an hour, right? I mean, the metaphors in terms of the snake being envious, but then even beyond that is being a human being and being envious, because we have free will and consciousness to decide not to be envious. So even if we are contaminated and we are seduced by being envious, and I think there's a difference, at least in my head, between jealousy and envy. And envy in itself, it has to be a bit more conscious. So it's something that a human can do and consciously be envious of. Something like jealousy is like almost like a primal instinct, and we don't have so much control over. But yeah, in that paragraph, we have a way of living, and in our story, we can remember why why we shouldn't be attached to even the material assets that we are blessed with, because they can be easily taken away.
Yeah, that's right. Nice analysis of this passage. So yeah, so from the beginning here, it seems like it's better to be a snake and be a snake that becomes touched by the lotus feet of Krishna than to be so beautiful, so learned, so influential, so handsome, so rich, to come from such a good family. Better to be a snake and be touched by Krishna's lotus feet. This was his prayer.
I mean, the blessing from the sage was that, right? So that he was able to strip away all those aspects which are human to a base level, which allows him to be almost pure and ready for Krishna. Because I don't think it's a coincidence, that the sage was able to see beyond and giving this blessing, right? So he had to be stripped away of everything that's human, which Krishna has given him, and then start from a base to be given access to Krishna. It's amazing gift. And actually, you can see this as a lesson for him, but because he's still got the consciousness of his past life. So this must be really painful for him as a snake, because if you're a snake, a serpent, and you've forgotten all your past lives, then you've got nothing to compare against. So the fact that he can say this story is phenomenal. It's like, you know, he's obviously being given that blessing to be able to remember, so that when he encounters Krishna, he can do the right thing, because he could have carried on, right,
Yeah.
and just swallowed and not interacted with Krishna. He could have been ignorant, which is what we say of lower forms. But yeah, so I could go on forever. Let me shut up.
No, thank you. Some really valuable insights. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, like the fact that he could remember his previous life is quite significant, isn't it? Because if he couldn't remember that, then, you know, where's he going next? Many of us don't have that blessing of remembering our previous lives. But that's not the case here. He remembered his life as a deva, all his opulences, you know, and his misdoings. And so he was, I guess you could see he was kind of like repenting, you know, till the point that Krishna came and liberated him. Yeah. Anything else? Any other thoughts or comments? Questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Very nice discussion. I just want to sidetrack a little bit because I'm just curious. With the sage Angira, she mentioned he was the son of Lord Brahma. So
Yeah.
why would the son of Lord Brahma be so ugly that is noticeable and is laughable? What would be the reason? Because normally ugliness is based on karma.
Yeah.
But here we have someone who's born from Lord Brahma, but yet is born ugly. This is a contradiction.
Mm.
There, I don't understand. What's going on. Although he's able to give, these curses and boons, so to speak. But why would be born ugly as a sage from Lord Brahma? That's what I don't understand.
That's an interesting question, actually. Does anyone know the answer for this?
I remember reading it about 4 or 5 years ago. It was about it's about the planets. I think wife of one of the planets went run away with Brahma or something like this, and had a son who was wise. But then, yeah, I can't fully remember it, so I better stop. But yeah, there is a story behind it.
Yeah. Anyone else? The thought I had in mind was, so it's not it may not necessarily be that he was an ugly person from the way that we perceive it. And of course, he has a special birth. He's, you know, one of the Maharishis. Even the sons of Brahma, they're like known as the Sapta Rishis. They have like each of the 7 main stars. They live on those stars, actually, the highest planets. Yeah. So his position is definitely very high, but it's not necessarily that it has to be beautiful, you know, because of that. And the other example that comes to mind is, if you remember in the Mahabharata. Has anyone been reading Mahabharata or heard the Mahabharata before? Yeah. If you remember in the Mahabharata, there's a story of even Vedavyas. Yeah. And when there are no children left in the dynasty of Shantanu, you know, because his children die, isn't it, early? And then there's only Bhishma, and Bhishma has taken a vow of celibacy. So he doesn't want to continue the family line. He doesn't want to be the next king. He doesn't want to marry and have children who will be the next king. So they're in a dilemma. Does anyone remember this story? Yeah. And so what happens is, there's no one to give a king. There are 3 wives, and none of them have children because their children have died. Or sorry, the husbands have died, and they didn't have any children. So Vyasadeva is called in because he's like the half brother of this family, yeah, of the family of Maharaj Shantanu. And Vyasadeva says, I will give children, but in 1 year. I'll give the children in 1 year, because right now I'm performing severe austerities. And because of, performing the sacrifices and always being at the the fire yagya, my body's all black. I haven't been maintaining my hair. It's become all disheveled, as you typically see in pictures of paintings of Vyasadeva, isn't it, how he looks? Yeah, he doesn't look like the most attractive person. He just looks like a rishi. Yeah. Now this, even Vyasadeva himself, he's an incarnation of Vishnu. He's a literary incarnation, as Srila Prabhupada says, of Vishnu. So it's not that he was a necessarily ugly person, but he was just engaged in all these sacrifices one after another. So he wasn't so concerned about looking good. Yeah. So like if we could kind of extend that point a little bit, that would be kind of my understanding here. That wasn't necessarily Angira Muni was concerned about looking good. And in fact, there's a story in the 9th canto in Bhagavatam about a sage. He came out of his austerities to become married, and then he asked the king for a wife. He asked the king for his one of his daughters, or all his daughters, to be his wife. And the king said, "This guy's kind of ugly. I don't think my daughters will marry him." So he just did some magic, and immediately he was transformed into a beautiful man. There's a few stories like this in the Bhagavatam, that just by mystic power, they could just, change all of the cells of their body, and they just look really young and beautiful. So it wasn't beyond him to be able to do that, even if he's one of the most ancient people in this universe. Does that answer your question, Prabhu?
Yes,
A couple of different angles.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was Sobramuni, I think, who came out of the water. I think it was meditation underwater.
Yeah, Shobrimuni, that's right. Yeah, I remember his name.
Thank you. Yeah.
So they had that ability. Because of their austerities, they were not looking very beautiful, these examples. Okay, would anyone like to read for the next couple paragraphs? Any volunteers? Just seeing on the chat if anyone else is offered. No? Okay. I could read then. No one else wants to. My dear Lord, Vidyadhar continued, now since I think I have become freed from all kinds of sinful activities, I am asking your permission to return to my abode, the heavenly planets. This request indicates that persons who are attached to fruitive activities desiring promotion to the comforts of higher planetary systems cannot achieve their ultimate goal of life without the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the less intelligent want to achieve material benefits and therefore worship different kinds of demigods, but that they actually get the benedictions from the demigods through the permission of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Demigods have no power to bestow material profit. Even if one is attached to material benedictions, he should worship Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and ask him. Krishna is completely able to give even material benedictions. There is a difference, however, between asking material benedictions from the demigods and asking them from Krishna. Dhruv Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead for a material benediction, but when he actually achieved the favor of the Supreme Lord and saw him, he was so satisfied that he refused to accept any material benediction. The intelligent person does not worship the demigods or ask favors from them. He directly becomes Krishna conscious. And if he has any desire for material benefit, he asks Krishna, not the demigods. All right, so what does Vidyadhar ask for after he's praised Krishna? What does he actually ask for? Anyone who has darshan of the Lord is as the Lord says, is entitled to a benediction. In the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj and Narasimhadev, when Hiranyakashipu is killed, then Narasimhadev asked Prahlad, "What do you want?" And Prahlad says, "I don't want anything. I just want to serve you." And Narasimhadev wouldn't take no for an answer. Right? Could he say no to Narasimhadev? As ferocious as he is. But Prahlad Maharaj, he didn't want anything. So actually, when the Lord comes, no matter what form, he always is ready to give benedictions. So what does Vidyadhara ask for?
So he wants to go back to the heavenly planets.
Yeah, that's right. And Prabhupada gives a more extensive purport here. Is it a very wise choice, what he's asked for? No. No. He gives a better example, isn't it, of Dhruva Maharaj, who had a material desire. Yeah. So you may go to Krishna with a material desire, but in Dhruva Maharaj's case, what happened?
After seeing the Lord, he didn't want anything.
Yeah, that's right. He actually thought the Lord was so beautiful that what he was asking for, he said in his prayers to Lord Vishnu when Vishnu appeared, that what I was asking for was like broken glass, and now I've seen the real diamond. I've seen the Lord, now I've seen the real diamond. So this is now Vidyadhara with Krishna. He's seen Krishna face to face. Still, his material desires are so overpowering. Still, Krishna is more beautiful than Lord Vishnu. And still, he doesn't let go of the material desires. Yeah. But Prabhupada, he qualifies that. He says that anyway, if you have material desires, anyway, even if you know they're not good to have, then still you should approach Krishna. Better to approach Krishna than the Devas, isn't it? And why is that? Why is it better to go, if you have material desires, to Krishna than to the Devas? First of all, where does the benedictions come from? Where do the blessings come from? Do they come from the Devas? If you go to a Deva and ask for, you do the pujas and different things and you ask for a blessing, then can the Deva give you the blessing? Might be a trick answer, trick question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Even
Krishna.
they will give you the benefit of any karma is come from the Krishna. That we previously
Yeah.
read in this book, yeah.
That's right, Mataji.
Panchali
Thank you.
Mataji also messaged in the message box about it, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. The Devas, they get the power from Krishna. The Devas are actually souls, spirit soul, just like us. Yeah, but they're empowered. They're empowered to give blessings by Krishna. So even their power to give blessings, where does that come from? It comes from Krishna. So someone who's intelligent, they will know that there's no need to worship the demigods because they're only getting their power from Krishna. So why not go straight to Krishna? So that's one thing. And the other thing Prabhupada mentions here is there's a difference between asking material benedictions from demigods and asking from Krishna. What's that difference? So if I ask for a television, a nice big widescreen television, I don't know what the latest televisions are, with all the latest technology on it. And I think, okay, let me ask the demigods for this television. and I go and do my pujas in the temple and all that. And then, you know, somehow I get a bonus at work, or, you know, find some money under the sofa, which I forgot about. You know, then great, I'll go out and buy my television. And then what will I do with that television? I'll just entangle myself in the material world, right? Even more. Widescreen entanglement. Otherwise, if I prayed to Krishna for that television and the same thing happened, you know, I got a promotion, I got a pay rise, or I got, you know, a bonus, or found the money in my garage or whatever, then I'd get the television, but Krishna will make an extra special blessing, a blessing in disguise, as you could say. You know, somehow or other, I might come across Krishna consciousness on that television. Krishna will find a way to sneak himself in. You know, he'll give us some extra benefit from that television, right? So best thing is not to ask Krishna for a television. But if you happen to do that, then Krishna might give you an extra blessing with it.
It's basically taking one step forward, two steps back, right?
Yeah. Instead, ask to become Krishna's devotee. Whatever you're entitled to get, you'll get anyway. Yeah. Sooner or later. But if you beg to become Krishna's devotee, then you don't have to worry about this material world altogether. Go back to Krishna, and all your desires will be fulfilled. Okay. Any thoughts, comments, questions? Yeah. Okay, we're just coming up to 9 o'clock. I'll just read the next paragraph then, yeah, and we can finish it there. Vidyadhara awaiting Krishna's permission to return to the heavenly planet, said, "Now, because I have been touched by your lotus feet, I am relieved of all kinds of material pangs. You are the most powerful of all mystics. You are the original, supreme personality of Godhead. You are the master of all the devotees. You are the proprietor of all planetary systems. And therefore I'm asking your permission. You may accept me as fully surrendered unto you. I know very well that persons who are constantly engaged in chanting your holy name attain release from all sinful reactions. And certainly persons who are fortunate enough to be personally touched by your lotus feet are freed. Therefore, I'm sure that I am now relieved of the curse of the Brahman simply by seeing you and being touched by your lotus feet." Right, so Vidyadhara, he basically returns to the heavenly planets. Yeah, he returns to the heavenly planets, but in addition to that, he's free from all his sins. So he doesn't just become freed from the curse of the Brahmin, the curse of Angira Rishi, but he's also free from all sins. He's aware, like he's aware of Krishna consciousness. He's aware if I chant the holy names of the Lord, I go back to Godhead. Yeah, he's aware of the spiritual process now. So he can actually go back to the heavenly planets free of pride and start to practice Krishna consciousness. So that's what he gets. So it wasn't the best thing he asked for. He could have gone straight back to the spiritual world, but he still had that material desire to go back to where he wanted to be, where he was before. But he's got Krishna consciousness and is taking that with him now. His consciousness is upgraded. Okay, we'll end there. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.